Hello everyone, and welcome to the Net at Work Sage X3 video series. Today we're going to be talking about rebate tracking. This is an enhancement developed by Net at Work in order to manage vendor-based rebates based on contracts between a supplier and a customer. I'll be your guide throughout this video. My name is Ralph Ceccarelli, and I'm one of Net at Work's sales engineers. I'm also a solutions architect, and I work very closely with customers to help develop and design these solutions, and then work with the development team to get these enhancements built and rolled out to the community. This is something that we're going to be offering to the entire X3 ecosystem, and hopefully you'll find it solves a niche in your industry. So how does it work? Well, we're all familiar with rebates. A rebate is simply a return of a portion of a purchasing price from a seller to a buyer. And usually it's based on a promotion, a date range, a specific item or group of items, or a specific above a specific quantity or dollar value. And oftentimes rebates are a way for a manufacturer to thank the consumer or the end user for their loyalty or incentivize them to buy a certain amount. And oftentimes this bypasses the intermediary, which might be the retail store or distributor. So if you buy a washing machine from Best Buy, you might get a rebate from the manufacturer that you then need to mail in, but Best Buy doesn't have anything to do with that transaction. Now, some industries, however, rebates have become much more complex and are used in conjunction with creative, incentive-based pricing tactics to allow businesses to become more competitive. One solution is called the Backend rebate, or BEC. And in these back-end rebates, a intermediary, such as a distributor, is going to offer discounted products, pre-discounted products to the customer, and then claim a rebate back to the supplier, and usually that claim is done at the end of a billing cycle or a promotion period or after certain incentives have been met. To illustrate this, we're going to use the healthcare industry. In the healthcare industry, hospitals often have relationships directly with manufacturers, even though they don't buy directly from them. So in these scenarios, a sales rep from the manufacturer might meet with a buyer from the hospital, and they might come up with certain contractual pricing agreements when the hospital uses devices from the manufacturer. Now this becomes very complex when you introduce an intermediary such as a distributor to the mix. The distributor would purchase product from the manufacturer, stock it in their warehouse, and at a later date, potentially sell it to a hospital or group purchasing organization. Oftentimes, they are buying from the manufacturer at a higher price, selling to the hospital at a pre-negotiated discount, and they have to keep track of all of the pricing agreements between the manufacturer and the hospital in order to claim a rebate from the manufacturer at the end of the sales process. This becomes much more complicated when a distributor is dealing with many manufacturers and is selling to many different customers. This intermediary then needs to manage all of the contracts for each manufacturer with each customer, and all of the products and promotions and date ranges and incentives that were pre-negotiated without the distributor's knowledge in many cases. So what are the problems with these back-end rebate programs if you are a distributor? Well, first of all, managing these rebate programs can be a huge obstacle because if you don't do it correctly, it can really affect profit margins between your customers and your vendors. Managing these programs is often done as a manual process where claims are calculated manually, and you need to spend a lot of time reconciling reports as to what was sold to what customer, of what product, what quantity, and it is very, very time consuming. Because of this, it is prone to human errors. And that is a real concern for many distributors, as even the smallest mistake can have severe impacts on project profit margins. As we were developing this, we noticed that our customers were claiming that our competitors were doing rebates. And as we drilled down into this, we realized that many of these rebate programs were either customer-facing rebates or vendor-facing rebates, but rarely did the system manage both sides of the equation. And in occasions that it does, it was often a third-party provider with a disconnected system that added this functionality and then built integrations to the system so that the rebates were managed off-system and there was some type of import-export process in order to integrate these claims into the accounting system. So in order to solve this, we actually developed a full-blown rebate tracking solution directly into Sage X3, using all of the Sage X3 development tools, allowing you to calculate and report rebates on any transaction, and allowing you to generate claims that book these credits directly to the accounting system, giving you a holistic view of the entire process. So how does it work? Well, let's just dive into X3 here for a moment. And you can see that within X3, of course, we can manage suppliers, but we've added the functionality of managing supplier contracts. And these contracts are going to be of various types. You can set up purchasing cost type contracts. You can set up a group purchasing organization, different types of contracts. So if it was a purchase cost type contract, that means that these prices are the prices that I pay to my supplier when I buy this product from this date range. We also have different types of agreements where maybe that supplier has an agreement for different GPOs or group purchasing organizations that also offer a discounted cost for a given date range for that same item. These sample reports also could have quantity breaks. So if the incentive is a lower cost, if you're buying more than a specific quantity, we can manage that at the line level for the items. We can also manage how we track the chargeback. We have different methods of setting up the chargeback to the customer, to the vendor, depending on whether it's at the end of an automatic credit, or if we need to send a report to the supplier to approve those credits before it becomes an actual credit memo or claim in the system. Similarly, we've developed customer contracts, and these are more for the sales side. So based on a specific agreement, what is the price for a given date range for a given product that we're going to sell to the customer from the distributor's perspective. These contracts are tied together through an eligibility list. And this eligibility list allows us to create a code where we can tag a customer group, a customer, or even down to a ship-to address for a given date range, and then tie those customers to a given supplier and a supplier contract. The supplier contract will dictate the cost of those products when we are selling from this supplier to this given customer. The difference between the standard cost and the contract cost is the value of the rebate you can claim. As we go through our process, the system will always look at all of the eligible contracts for that product and that date range and find the most lucrative contract to apply to that given transaction. So whether I'm doing a quote or a sales order or a delivery or an invoice, the system will always have the ability to recalculate the rebates. So if a new incentive program was introduced before I invoiced this order, I can recalculate to leverage that contract in order to maximize my profit. At the line level of every sales order to the customer, once a contract has been established, if I look at the detail of this line item, we can see that I can specify the contract ID, the type of contract that it is, a contract number, and the supplier that that is tied to that particular contract. Again, the system will always look throughout every step in the process for the most lucrative contract to use. The system will automatically generate rebates to the suppliers, and we can look up unclaimed rebates that have already been reported to the supplier, or claimed rebates. These is for the history of everything that's been claimed. Any unclaimed rebates can generate a report that can print directly to the customer, to the supplier for approvals. And the supplier can then check off which rebates have been approved or unapproved for this claim period. That will flow directly into the accounting system within X3. And because it is important to not allow a claim from one supplier that really you're selling inventory that you bought from a different supplier, we've added the ability of managing inventory at the supplier level. So not only do we know what inventory we've received from a supplier, but we know exactly how much is left per supplier based on receipts generated by that supplier that have been shipped to individual customers. So this was just a overview of the rebate tracking module. Of course, we would be happy to provide some additional details and walk you through a more detailed demo. But in summary, our enhancement allows us to recalculate rebates when rebates are modified or backdated, automatically track purchases and sales agreements, track accruals, automatically invoice and set up supplier credits and debits, extensive reports and audit trail capabilities. We can track the history of revision of contracts with suppliers. We have the ability to do internal approvals with integrated trading partner sign-offs. We can track rebates given for any items. We can track multiple eligible contracts that are in play at the same time. We can define priority and automatically select the most lucrative contract. And we can calculate the impact of these rebates on profits. There's various calculation methods that we offer, and we can create claims to the supplier based on a whole host of parameters. So if this is something that interests you, please feel free to reach out to us here at Net at Work, and we'd be happy to give you a more detailed demo based on your specific requirements. Thank you.